So today we're looking at glazing techniques using Adobe Fresco. So as per usual, I placed the photo, dulled the opacity, and now I'm tracing it in an outline to begin with on a layer that I'll leave on the top of this artwork. So here I'm using the eyedropper tool to create a palette in the swatches menu, and I'm using them straight from the photo at full opacity, so the photo hasn't been dulled here to get the swatches. Created a palette which I might add to later, and now you see I've put a layer underneath the outline layer, and I'm going to start to add colour. And start with some highlights here, some of the white areas, and see I've added some of the mid-tones and the darker shadows, all with sort of a line brush. And you can see as I go, I decide I need a few more colours in the swatch library, so I add them. And I'm also deciding to add a darker background to contrast the skin colour. So lots of greys, and I end up adding red and green to this image. And you might notice none of the painting so far has really been glazes. It's all been opaque brush strokes. And you think of opaque brush strokes as like toothpaste, so they're not see-through at all. So I like to start with some sort of underpainting that's quite opaque. And here you see I've started to play with some glazes. So you see the transparent black I'm adding over some of the shadow areas, and all that is a colour that's been put in at quite a large sort of brush size, and you dull down the transparency so it's very, very transparent. And in this app you can also click a slider down the bottom left, which allows you to tell it to not mix with the other paint layers. So you can think of that as painting on top of something that is dry. You can see here I'm going with a general rule of like dark tone, mid-tone, light tone with the glazes, just to start with. I end up adding a warmer glaze as well later on. And here I've started to dull the background image so I can see the image that I'm creating entirely. You can see any gaps that I've left. You might notice that I am painting on the second layer down of the stack, so that actually leaves the top layer, which is the outline layer, on the very top. So anything I'm doing with colour brushes is painting underneath the outline. You notice here the app does something really interesting here. When I add a black glaze over some of the grey strokes that I've done, it almost like dry brushes the strokes, and makes the outline of the opaque stroke that was there pop out in a really interesting way, a lot like it would if you were doing an actual painting in real life. I think it's important to note here that if you are playing with glazes, you see a red glaze go on there. The whole idea of glazing is thinking about it like tinted glass. So you're adding tinted glass layers on top of one another. So you can see there I've got a black layer, a red layer, the opaque underpainting layer, and on the hand there's several skin layers that I'm adding glazes over the top of. And someone once told me at art school that to begin glazing you need to have the painting there first, so you almost can't glaze something that's not there. So he taught me to paint a hand or a face first and then start to add the glazing over the top. It took him about 50 minutes to explain that in a very, very interesting abstract way. He was an excellent teacher. And you can see that blue area down the bottom left. That was created from adding a light blue glaze, which did something really interesting. You see it created pinks over the brown, pinks and blues over the brown. That was just a clear blue glaze, so you can get some really interesting colour effects using glazing. What I'm doing here is I'm switching between the photo and the drawing to see overall what's happening with the tone. So when I switch between the photo and the painting itself, you'll notice I flick back and forth in a moment, and I'm just looking at the overall tone of what's happening in the hand compared to the photo. Started to darken some of the background right up against the hand to create contrast, and use some cross-hatching techniques, because remember it is a painting, an iPad painting, it's not a photo, so you can add artsy bits and pieces to it, using lines and etc, even though it's a painting. finished drawing. Get close up here, and you'll notice, yeah, it looks very painterly. Got the accurate colour. Glazing helps create shadow and a bit of warmth here and there. And you've also got the line drawing over the top, which makes it interesting. Hope you've enjoyed the video, guys.